Hey, hi everyone, this is Vinisha, and today I'm going to demonstrate few troubleshooting techniques to fix one of the most commonly faced error, that is the 404 error code, while trying to invoke the web service based listener processes in Boomi. So let's get started. This is a sample listener process which I've built. It's called the users API. So what this process basically does is it picks up the name of the incoming user and displays a simple welcome message to all the users who are logging into this website called the Boomiverse. So I'm currently trying to test this listener process from an external client tool called the Postman. And this is the request which I've configured. So currently when I try to test it, so as you see, we are running into a 404 error. So let me quickly walk you through the steps we need to verify in order to fix this 404 error code. So let me go back to my Boomi screen. So the first thing we need to verify is if this listener process is deployed to the environment. So let me quickly go to the deployment screen and filter by the component. Click on apply. So as you see, the process is deployed to the test environment. So the next thing we need to verify is the shared web server type set at the runtime level. To do that, we need to go to the atom management and then to the test environment because this is where the listener is deployed. So then to the respective attached atom cloud and to the shared web server section. So since I'm using a simple standalone, basic listener process without using any API service component, we need to, set the shared web server type, shared web server API type to either basic or intermediate. So currently I've set it to intermediate because I want the user management to be enabled at individual, process level. So I'll explain that part, in the later part of the video. Um, so as of now, the shared web server API type, this API type intermediate, it is good. So the next thing what we need to verify is the status of the listener, that is the health check of the listener, whether the listener is up and running or not. So to do that, we need to go back to the listeners tab and filter by the name of the listener. So as you see, the listener is online, which means it is up and running and it's healthy. So please note that, like, if the listener is offline, when the listener is offline, you see a red color icon over here. So if the listener is offline or if it is paused, in such scenarios as well, the API service request will fail and you will see a 404 error. So in such scenarios, what you need to do is click on the little gate icon over here and click on the restart option so that the listener gets restarted. And once it comes back online, the API calls will resume to work, successfully. So here in my case, since the listener is already online, there's nothing else we need to do at this point of time. So moving on, the next thing what we need to verify is if the resource path that we are using, if this resource path which we are using to invoke the listener, if the resource path is a valid one. So to do that, we need to, I'm just copying this URL and pasting it into a notepad. So let me as well grab the actual URL from the Boomi platform. So to do that, as we know, like the resource path, to invoke the listeners is usually formed by appending the base URL of the API service request, which is this one, along with the simple URL path of the listener operation. So this is the simple URL path. So let me, copy these values and paste it into a notepad so that we can compare the URL easily. Let me copy the simple URL path as well. Paste it over here. So If you compare both of these URLs, in the Boomi process, we have set the URL path to use the get welcome user, whereas in the Postman, I'm using this get welcome users, so to call the listener. So essentially, this additional character, it is essentially a kind of a typo in the URL. So in order to fix that, we need to copy the valid resource path and paste it in Postman. Let's try invoking the listener once again. So basically, we need to ensure that the resource path doesn't have any typos. So as you see, we are able to see a 200 OK response now. So uh, here we can also supply the username to our listener process so that it displays a welcome message by taking the input name of the user as well. So let me quickly retest this. So as you see, it picked up the username which we supplied and it displayed a 200 OK successful message. So even after verifying the above things, if you're still facing the 404 error, the last thing we can check is the particular user, like whatever we configure to invoke the listener. If this user is prevented from accessing this specific listener process. So to do that, um, we need to go to the atom management screen and then to the shared web server, click on the user management. So this is the user which I'm using in Postman to invoke the listener process. So at the moment, we have this process filtering turned off, which means that the specific user will have access to invoke all the listener processes that are deployed to this particular test admin cloud. So if I enable this process filtering and um, provide access for this user to only access a specific listener process. um, so let me quickly save this. So currently I have, made this user to only access this specific listener process called 2023. Um, so I have disabled the access to our users API at this moment. So let me quickly retest this listener and, observe the results. So as you see, we are running into the 404 again. This is because we have, restricted this user to only, access this particular listener process. So let me just, enable the access for this listener process as well. Click on save. Okay. And re-invoke the listener. So as you see, the listener process is back and we are able to see a 200 OK and this is a successful response. So these are a couple of things, we need to check when we are facing the 404 error code. So moving on, you might as well face the 404 error while using the API service component as well. So let me quickly demonstrate that scenario as well. So this is a sample API service component, which is called the time API, which has a REST-based listener process linked to it. This is the listener process called the fetch current time. So this API process, what it basically does is it fetches the current time of the Atom cloud and displays it to the end user. So let's try invoking this API component from the Postman and observe the results. So this is the request which I've configured to invoke the API service component. So let me quickly test this API. So as you see, we are running into a 404 error. So let's quickly verify like what are the things that we need to check, to fix this 404 code. So let me go back to my Boomi screen. So the first thing we need to verify is the shared web server type. So as you see, currently the API type is set to intermediate, but uh, remember that we are using an API service component here. So in order to use the API service components or proxy components, the shared web server type has to be changed to advanced. So let me quickly go ahead and do this change. Click on OK, click on save so that the changes get reflected. So now this is done. So the other thing what we need to verify is, if the API service component and the related listener process, if these both of these components are, deployed to the platform or not. So to do that, we need to go to the deployment section and filter by the component names. Click on apply. So we see that the API service is deployed to the test environment. So similarly, we need to verify it for the listener process as well. So we see that the listener processes as well deployed to the test environment, which looks good. So let's go back to the Postman and try invoking this listener once again. So as you see, the listener, the API call works successfully, and we receive a response. Like this is a current time of the test atom cloud where this API component is deployed. So also we need to ensure that the HTTP method is matching between the web services operation along with that of the API component. So here if you see my the HTTP method I'm using is a post. So the API component as well needs to be configured to use the same HTTP method. So basically, we need to ensure that the API service HTTP method matches with that of your web services operation type. So if you use a post method here and a get method here, you will again face the 404 error. Let me quickly demonstrate it for you. So as you see, we run into a 404 error. So ensure that these HTTP methods match. And so yeah, so this works. So what if you're observing this 404 error? Like, what if it is occurring intermittently? Then you need to verify, like you need to isolate the occurrences of the 404 error. And then troubleshoot based on the information, such as if the error is happening on a specific node, then you need to verify the container logs of that particular node and see, or else if the issue is happening during a specific time, you need to verify if there are any like backend jobs running, such as any backup activity or snapshots being taken, or any antivirus running on the backend run times. So because these kind of activities as well, they cause communication issues to the underlying JVMs. So we need to verify those things as well in case the issue is intermittent. So that's it for this video. I hope this helps, and thank you.